Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the profit and nonprofit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. Casey Cares is proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Helping urban youth succeed has been a challenge for many, many, many years. Creating a village to nurture and mentor kids beginning at the age of 9 to their 20s is part of the focus of our guest today with Xseed in Life, building foundations and leaving legacies. With a focus on minorities, Xseed offers leadership, personal development, financial understanding, as well as social skills for youth and young adults. And we're so fortunate today to have the founder of Xseed in Life, Anthony Dedman. Welcome. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I think one of the first places we have to start is the name. Folks may not be able to see it here, but it's Xseed in Life. Tell us a little bit about the name, and then we'll get into your mission.
Okay. So the name Xseed in Life derived from the idea of multiplying seeds as well as excelling. So, and then with our program model that I created, there's 10 seeds as well. So it's really a play on the word as far as 10 seeds, multiplying seeds, and then also to exceed in life.
So you have 10 seeds within the program,
yes,
correct? Or in the organization. Tell us a little about those.
So it's more of the breakdown of the segments of the modules, going through 10 place points, whether it be in the Walk of a Man program, Successive Living program, or Voice of Woman program. But it gives the students a base or understanding as to where they are within, and just gives them those different plot points so that they can kind of chart their own success.
Well, let's jump back before the organization was created by you. What were you doing? Where were you in life? What was going on?
I was actually in the military. It's kind of a weird story. I was military. I was a corpsman. I'd been deployed 3 times in about 5.5 years. And in going back to Charleston at the time, I made some friends who were in gangs, and I would work with what they call their little homies, or their younger people within their organizations. And I just realized that there's certain skill sets that they didn't understand. And so I would just meet with them, talk with them, and help them along the way. Not necessarily pushing them out of what they're doing, but just making them better at what they're doing. And then from there, they gained trust and just saw other paths from that.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service. We're grateful for that and appreciate that. But to jump into what many people would think could be a dangerous situation, I mean, think the word gangs just sends all kinds of things into the air. Mm-hmm. How did you take that? You really boots on the ground. You're helping, you're working with kids, and create this into a nonprofit.
Well, so when you look at the origin of gangs, Crips, Bloods, GDs, a lot of these were not government. These were neighborhood groups that were looking to protect their community. And me being Nigerian, I understand that protecting community and the idea of legacy or taking care of your own is important. So when you're able to take a subset group and just push certain understandings or the culture behind the why of things, it reinforces what they're doing, but it also gives more understanding, which allows them to kind of push forward and learn different traits, so to speak.
So then how did you get to Kansas City and transition this idea, where you're working one-on-one, a very intimate number, to what it is here today?
So my family's from here. I went to high school in Raytown, and then I left for the military. So in getting out of the military, I moved back home, and I noticed that a lot of the nonprofits were ran by people that were older and didn't necessarily look like the clientele that I tend to work with.
Starting a nonprofit is not an easy thing, my friend. Talk to us a little bit about how you went through those steps, and were there mentors, friends, partners that helped you along the way?
So I really didn't know what a nonprofit was. I got out of the military. I was mentoring and working with youth, and someone asked me if I was a nonprofit. And then I had a lot of companies tell me that because I was not a nonprofit, they wouldn't help or allow me to use venues, or I couldn't use parks or whatever. So then I had to kind of look up what it was. Did I have help with it? Not especially. A lot of the things that I've done over the years have just been out of pocket, or I'll do like sell shirts or things like that. Learning the process was difficult. I did the 501c3 thing for a while, but I actually never got any grants or anything like that. So I've just kind of done community activities and gained friends and mentors along the way to help with the youth.
So now let's dig really into what Xseed in Life is. Give us those nuts and bolts. What are you trying to do, and how are you doing it?
So I've seen there's a big disconnect between African Americans and people that are from different countries in West Africa. And so what I do is I take African principles and coming of age and rites of passage programs, and I give them more of an American value or American spin to help youth that are here better navigate and understand who and what they're going to become. And then from there, give them the ability to kind of write their own legacies and create their own futures in ways that keep them successful.
So how do you go about doing that? Let's talk about programs, but even finding the youth and who they are and engaging them.
So originally it was just neighborhood kids that were around. And then parents would hear about me. Different social media people would reach out that have youth programs. I've been brought into schools that have a heavy urban influence. With COVID, it's been interesting. I've actually had to scale down quite a bit. The building that we were in was taken over by the military to make masks and things like that. So a lot of it, I've just been meeting with youth at parks when I get an opportunity, or in like the public library, things like that.
So let's talk about that P word, pandemic.
Yes.
You've shifted outside. You had to come out of a building that was taken over for pandemic purposes.
Yes.
What were some of the other things that you have done during what I would say was hardcore pandemic, although it seems like we may be shifting back? And what were some of the lessons maybe learned from the experience that we all had to kind of maneuver through?
So lessons learned. With the pandemic, outside of the nonprofit, I also had a restaurant, and then I just started a catering company out of a beard brand. Without going into a lot of it, I technically lost all businesses and all buildings at the same time. So restarting each thing has been interesting when you can't market or go about business how you normally would. I have restarted a different restaurant, and the catering side I'm getting back up. I'm looking for a building for the nonprofit now so that people actually have a place to meet, mentors can start again, and different things like that. But yeah, just like anything else in life, when things happen, you get up, fix it, move forward. So.
Well, you have great stamina. You have great strength to do that. You can plug the restaurant. Go ahead, throw that in there.
Chicks in Kansas City. It's a ghost kitchen on Southwest Boulevard.
Terrific. Well, so glad that you're getting that back up and going. Let's talk about the program.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about what you're doing. As I understand it, there are really 3 kind of overall programs.
Yep.
Start with whichever one you would like.
So it all started with the Walk of a Man. That was something that was put together to give kind of a blueprint or step by step on how a boy goes from just the level of a boy to what would be perceived as a man who is able to provide for his community, create a legacy, and really leave a mark in the world. And so just going through what the definitions of that are, going through what are your passions, what is your purpose, how do you convert your passions to a purpose, and how do you get that purpose to become a legacy? Going through one of the things that we do that's kind of unique is our history component. The history go back about 850,000 years. So we really dig into the different cultures, civilizations, what these people did and the why behind it, and show the similarities between older traditions and customs and cultures and what's done now. Whether it be tribes, migration of tribes, the language use, foods, and the way that works, and really diving in. One of our mottos is that our history did not start with slavery. And just kind of diving into what that means. When you're able to give someone young information on who and what they were, they don't have as much of the stigma or the weight of feeling certain things or understanding themselves to be only one thing. So it kind of liberates and gives them that freedom and understanding. It also allows them to challenge teachers, which makes them love me, if you can probably imagine. I get calls from
So do you recruit kids? Do they sign up? And is it like a formal curriculum that you go through with the young men?
Yes. So typically when I do the classes, they're anywhere from about 10 to, I think the largest class we've done is 40. It's a booklet. The men's booklet is 54 pages. It goes into everything from grooming, like I said, history, understanding communication. What else is on there? Bullying and cyberbullying, how to walk, just different things like that, the different principles and understandings of how to get where you need to be, goal setting, financial literacy, things like that, and why financial literacy kind of puts you in a position at a young age to help you as you grow and continue the things you want to do.
So do these kids then like meet on a Monday for such a period of time, or I'm just making that up? Just wanting to know how it works.
So honestly, it depends on the medium that I'm at. If I'm in a school, sometimes we will do Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the male side, and then we'll have instructors do Tuesday, Thursday, and sometimes like a Saturday overview for the women's side of the program. If it's where I'm doing it personally, I like to do it either weekly, once a week or twice a week. That way we can really dive in, do 2-hour sessions and kind of really go into that. And I prefer to do that during the summer or during a good break where that information can kind of really stay with the child.
And so these kids, once they've gone through the program, what happens to them?
Well, funny enough, that's actually why I started some of the profit businesses and got to know some business owners. My goal is once they've kind of figured out what they want to do and how they want to do it, I try to align them with people that look like them, that are doing that thing or that they can learn from. So whether that be like an internship or just a tag along, ride along, or just getting to have sit downs with that person to ask the questions they need to ask and things like that, but giving them a base skill set to be able to move forward, whether that be interest in finance, law, law enforcement, culinary, branding, marketing, social strategies, things like that.
Now, is there a mentoring component to the program beyond you or the instructor? Are they set up with someone that mentors them as well, or that's not part of the program at this point?
They are, but it's not as formal. It's one of those things where the relationship's made and we encourage the youth to kind of stick to that person as they go through their journey. But as you know, people shift, change, move, and things like that.
Sure, of course. We're talking to Anthony Dedman. He is the founder of Xseed in Life. Now, we've talked about your first seminal program. Let's talk. It sounds like there's a women's component as well.
Yes. So Voice of a Woman is the women's side of it. And it's similar. There's some changes when it comes to like the hygiene side and some of the principles as well. And as well as like sacred body care, going through oils and going through different things that help the body when there's ailments or hygiene or alleviating rashes, just different pH, going over the pH of a woman and how that works. But yeah, so it's similar in focus.
And since you've been doing this, how many years now?
We are in year 10, actually. Yeah.
Congratulations. Happy birthday. Happy decade.
Absolutely.
How many young people have come through the program? Do you know?
Honestly, I stopped counting around, I think it was around 750. If I had to guess, probably about 900 total.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you. Wow. To have an imprint on a young person is pretty amazing. You have another program, Successive Living?
Yes.
All right. Well, so let's talk about that. Give me some more stuff on that.
So one of the reasons Successive Living was created was because we saw that financial literacy and just understanding and maneuvering the business world, whether it be becoming an employee or becoming an employer, business credit, personal credit, lines of just resources and being able to access those things can be such a problem, especially within this community. So it just lays out everything that would deal with resume writing to opening accounts to things like that. But then also that kind of hidden conversation component, dressing for success. And what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean wearing a suit or tie. Situational appropriateness, which really comes down to how you maneuver when you are with friends, family, and community versus speaking the business language and the money language as well. Things like that.
And so how do you get folks into that program?
Typically, we select students that have gone through the male or female program and bring them into that component. So that one is less populated as the first two.
And sounds like it's more specific. Maybe, I don't want to say more guided, but maybe that's focused, perhaps.
Definitely, we joke and say that that's the program that is dangerous. That's the one that really allows people, when they walk in and leave from that program, they kind of understand the world, the way the world works better, and they can go out, show their parents, show people within their community, and strategize to play the game of life a little better than everybody that's around them.
I want to ask you what may be a sensitive question,
Sure.
But in the summer of 2020, on top of the pandemic, we also had a real summer of racial injustice and reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
How has that impacted what you do? How did that affect things?
To be honest, I think, how would I put it? I think Will Smith said it best when he said it's not really new, it's just now being televised. So from our side, especially when talking with youth and students about being stopped by police or navigating that other world, that's been a discussion that we've had this entire time. Always show your hands, always make sure that you speak a certain way. That actually goes into the situational appropriateness component, just understanding where you are and how you're viewed. We dive into, in the men's program and the women's program, we dive into the, not perception, what do they call them? The prejudices or the way that we're the stereotypes of men that are Black and stereotypes of Black women and what they mean, how they break down, and what places are you most likely going to be seen in those ways? And how do you counteract that?
So in talking with young people about that, what do you hope then that they take away?
Really taking the tools that they're given to use them effectively. So understanding, like one of the things we talk about is the brute. For men that have facial hair or are of a certain size or have tattoos, many times the moment that you're being walked upon by a police officer or the woman that's walking down the street with her purse that is going to clench her purse, we know these things are going to happen. We know why. Understanding that kind of lets us navigate that situation. Is it something that you want to have to teach a child? No, but at the same time, them understanding those things can really help them. So it's one of those things that we go over. What is the brute? Why is that something that's a generalized stereotype about Black men? What type of interactions do you typically have? How can you see the signs that that's what's going on? How do you decompress that situation?
You've been around for a decade. You're working with young people, I would say growing them. Mm-hmm. You've expanded beyond here?
We did for a little bit, yes.
And where were you?
We've gone to South Carolina in Charleston. We had a subset group that was in South Chicago. And then where was the last one? Oh, in Atlanta, Georgia.
And not operating there at this point in time?
No, not currently.
And why is that? I mean, was it just hard to export when you're here and somebody else is there?
Making sure that we're about the results of the youth. And so making sure that everything is consistent and they're truly gaining from those things. There's many social justice fights right now. And I've noticed that sometimes people can take the agendas that they have and try to force that into a space that it doesn't necessarily fit. And so as opposed to that being the case, keeping it grounded, keeping it simple, and making it something that we know can be successful is the goal. And so until we find a way to do that effectively, that will be our focus.
Right. I'm going to take a little bit of a pivot on you back into being a nonprofit and trying to operate with the 8,000 other nonprofits that Kansas City is home to. What are kind of the greatest challenges that you face as a nonprofit?
I'd say probably funding has been one of the biggest headaches. A lot of the other nonprofits that are out of the different places in the city, I've noticed they kind of pander and do other things or try to fit everybody else's goal for them to get that funding. And yeah, we're not really about that. So going after certain grants, we've been promised grants that have been pulled and different things like that. And people have disappeared on us. And so honestly, I don't even look for funding at this point for the most part. I'll do fundraisers, I'll throw community events out of my pocket. That's why I've started some of these businesses so that I can just throw money at doing what needs to be done.
That's pretty amazing that you've taken that on yourself. You have a board.
Yes.
And tell me, how does the board work with? I assume maybe you're the staff. You're the only.
I'd say there's staff-wise, there's about 4 of us.
There are 4 of them. Tremendous. Yeah. Paid?
No.
Okay, so it's volunteer staff.
Yes, absolutely.
Got you. So how does the board then work with your team to keep things going?
It's more of an advisory board, to be honest. So if we have different ideas or things like that, it's like, okay, are we allowed to do this? If we are allowed to do this, how can we execute this? Do you have any ideas or things you can bring to the table to make this work more effectively? Gotcha.
What would you like to see Xseed do in the next 5 to 10 years? Assuming funding wasn't an issue, right?
Absolutely. I would say get back into at least a smaller office like we had before, and possibly have the space where we can actually bring the youth consistently, that's on a bus line, that's easy to get transportation for the parents that may not have transportation, and be able to do all of our programming. Not only because we have those 3 programs, but then we also have Feed a Nation, where we give 100 families $100 worth of groceries. We do, what is the other one? There's Feed a Nation. There's, I think it takes a village, where we do food for homeless. We do care packages for homeless, free haircuts, free hairstyling, health screenings, dental screenings, sports physicals, and kind of that community thing as well. So just being able to consistently do those things, both on the Kansas side and the Missouri side for now, and then reboot our programs and have a space to allow the youth to go there.
So when you do something like Feed a Nation, where you take these groceries out, do you ever have the kids in your program then help deliver so that they see the rise up, or that it's more than just me, it's the community that you talked about?
So when we do Feed a Nation, the kids help pack the food, and some of them will ride. I tend to do it 2 male, 1 female when they're going out, just so that, because one of the caveats with this is it's not certain people. These are all families that have been given to us a name, and they don't know we're coming. So being that they don't know we're coming to their homes, we make sure that there's enough staff not to freak them out. We knock on the door, we give them food, we give them a letter, we leave. We don't ask them for money, we don't ask them for anything. The letter essentially just tells them who we are and that we appreciate them being in our community, and we hope this helps. And if not, then they can give it to whoever it may help that they know. And that's it.
If folks want to find out more about the program, where should they go?
They can either email us directly at xseedandlife@gmail.com, or they can go to the website.
Which is?
xseedandlife.org.
That's your freebie commercial right there. And how can people help you and the organization? Are there volunteer opportunities? What are the ways that we can?
Depending on like some of the community events, with the men's program and the women's program, obviously we keep that the Black males help the men and the women help the women. We don't. There are 1 or 2 modules where the 2 meet, but other than that, that's strict that side and that side. With the community involvement, I mean, we always love to have volunteers come out. We've had people help with face paint, or we do water games, or helping cook food, or helping even with cars to help facilitate, because we drive everybody takes their own cars when they're delivering the food, and even with the homeless side as well, delivering care packages.
And overall, do you look for mentors? Do you want outside folks to say, yes, I would like to be and help?
We are pretty strict with our mentors, honestly. That's why I started the Beard brand, because one of the issues we had was finding male mentors that actually fit with the programming. So, I mean, we're always open to having mentors with people to help within different programs, but we're pretty specific with what we do on that side.
Well, Anthony, we're so grateful for what you're doing and trying to lift up and educate and move forward. And we wish you good luck, not only with the nonprofit, but all the other things that you're kind of restarting here and moving forward.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. And thank you for listening to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, and we're proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kauffman Foundation. To be a guest on KC Cares or underwriting opportunities, please visit our website at kccaresonline.org and spread the love, and find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio, and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. And catch us on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Thank you for listening to KC Cares.